every time a client talks to us, it costs them money in two ways at least. One is our time that they're paying for, and two, they could be doing something far better with their time. They set aside half an hour for a conference with me. Well, imagine if that half an hour was spent chasing a new client and signing up a new client in whatever it is. So it's important. We try and make sure our clients don't need us or don't need to talk to us as much. Some of it is education, analysis of their business. Do they know their business? And even things like, oh, we're flat out, we're so busy. You might be, but if you were at 80% capacity collecting 100% of that money, then you'd be probably in a better situation. You're chasing work you can't do. Never be a busy fool.
Yeah.
Just working for revenue. You want to work to make money.
Hello, this is Chanel and welcome to segment 3 of Knowledge is Power. I am glad to present my next guest, a guru of the legal system, Mr. Brendon Long from Celtic Legal. He is, I'm sure once he starts talking, you'll understand what I mean about guru. But I deal with a lot of lawyers and he is by far one of the best, and his team are just exceptional. So Brendon, over to you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, not a problem. Thanks for having me, Chanel. Now, delighted to be here. So yeah, Celtic Legal, 7.5 years on the road.
Whoa.
And loving it.
Loving it?
Yes. Well, there's never a boring day. There's never a boring day. If there is, it's time to retire. And also, you'll never know everything.
Yeah.
Because if you think you do, something else passes you by, or you slip up, or whatever it is. So there's never a boring day. Got a wonderful team. They work very hard and make my life easy. So
excellent. Good to hear it. Well, you've got no grey hair, so something's going right.
So far, anyway. Thankfully.
Look, Brendon, everyone is terrified the minute they get a legal notice or a statement of claim or a lawyer calls them. Why is that? And should they be worried?
Well, historically, of course, it is something to be fearful of. And in some ways, there should be a level of fear about it. Something has gone wrong, something has happened. Or certainly the person who's issued the claim thinks that something has gone wrong. So there should be a level of urgency immediately, not panic. That is the worst thing that could happen. There should be an elevation of, okay, this has come to a head, or it could be out of the blue. But normally it's the warning signs have been there, and there's been some steps along the way that you can take or you could have seen coming that you would expect whatever the legal notice is, whether it's a claim, letter of demand, a statutory demand, or a winding up notice or bankruptcy proceedings. None of those happen quickly. So there's often a lead in. Most important thing is take take note of those warning signs.
And don't ignore them, right?
Do something, correct.
Okay.
Don't put their head in the sand. Ostrich approach. Most important thing is, so many people don't have someone to turn to. First thing to ask yourself is, do I understand what I've just received, whether it's a letter or a document? Yes, no. If you're in any doubt, the answer is no. You do not understand. How do I find someone that will explain it to me? It's normally going to be a lawyer. How do I find someone I trust? Well, who is in your circle, whether it's business friends, close friends? You have to hopefully have someone to lean on. If all else fails, there's a directory. You can ring a law society if you don't trust, golden pages or whatever. Never have nobody to turn to.
Yeah.
If you don't like where you've ended up, ring somebody else.
Yeah.
Don't struggle on and go, oh, he'll get back to me. Maybe there's been a miscommunication and you were to get back to them. Don't ignore things. Follow up, be diligent, and make sure that the person you end up speaking to understands what your story is.
Yes. What I found with, between Wardle and Celtic, is that I normally get that frantic call that they've received a letter.
Yep.
And at that point, they haven't even sent me a copy of the letter. They're just telling me about this letter that they don't understand. However, I don't lie. I'm completely upfront and honest with all of the people I deal with. And I always recommend seeking legal advice as well as sending me a copy and ask them exactly what happened, like what led them into the situation that they found themselves in. And that's when I really honestly just depict that to your team. And 9 times out of 10, there's a solution. Don't ignore the notice. Let's do something about it. So if you owe X amount and you've just received this claim, number one, what led to it? Why were the previous collections demand notices ignored? And how are we going to resolve it? There's always a resolution. It's just the fact that don't ignore it. And then we can get to a good resolution. But your team do communicate extremely well. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. And the other thing, and the follow on all of that, is it's important when that matter will finish up. The biggest thing then is that shouldn't be the full stop of your relationship with your advisor, whether it's a lawyer, accountant, yourself. The next step that should be taken, so you close the book on that matter on the Tuesday, the Wednesday morning should be, how do we make sure we never end up in this situation again?
I love that, because that's what I'm all about.
Yes.
Empowering people and actually giving them the tools, teaching them the tools, providing them experts. They've had that interaction with your company, for example. They know that you've helped them overcome the situation. Fair enough, the original letter they received might not have been perfect, but they're now at the ends of that and they can move forward. If they ever find themselves entering into that predicament again, there's no reason why they can't engage your firm to then represent them. Or they're, similar to a business. If they are in a position where you've served a notice on a business entity or a director, they can then engage you in moving forward. They've got a reputable legal firm.
Absolutely.
And likewise, there's no reason for them to stop their communication with me. And if they've got any questions, they can call my company anytime. And, we would help them with free tools and advise them of where they can obtain other experts, But I think that's what's falling over. A lot of people don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. And they're just simply too afraid to ask.
Yep.
And that's really sad.
It is. And hopefully you find an advisor. And the best example I always give as a person is an accountant. You can go to an accountant. They'll do your tax returns, charge you $80. You've met a loss. They'll submit it. They don't care. Wouldn't a good accountant go, okay, you've met a loss. Why? What happened?
Yes.
So we try and do the same in the legal side of things. So you may get sued. People get sued. And it's not in this day and age, people get sued. Companies get sued. How you deal with it will determine how it happens going forward. Hopefully we can deal with that one and make sure it never happens again. So Can you ask yourself, the first question you should ask yourself when you've tidied up your legal matter, will this be my last one? And then, do I know my business? So, do I know my business? What do I mean by that? Can you describe to somebody in one sentence what you do? And are you confident that everyone in your business and organization, every employee, everyone you deal with, has the same vision?
100%.
Because if they don't, then there's something wrong with the message, and poor communication leads to problems, leads to legal actions. Perhaps all the staff aren't on the same page. Maybe you're overstaffed. Maybe you're understaffed. You could have cash flow issues that you don't know. You have money in the bank, but there's all sorts of drains. Have you ever looked at your own business? Ask yourself some questions as opposed to, this is all going great. Well, something happened. You've had a legal action.
100%.
How do we make sure maybe it is a finance? Maybe there is something that we need to look at to restructure it as some high interest things that could be combined into something better. Don't put yourself in a position that you need a lawyer often.
Yes.
But you should always have somebody that you can trust ready.
Absolutely. Let's focus on something that you've actually just said about businesses. If a business starts to get legal demand notices, it comes down to one of two things: the business processes or the business staff. Is somebody ignoring these letters, or is it being chucked in the bin? Or is there a gap in a process? And what I found is a part of what Wardle does is we go into companies and from an operational point of view, try to identify the gaps.
Yep.
And it might very well be that the processes are in place and the staff are brilliant and they're aligned, they want to do the right thing, but it might be a simple issue of cash flow. They're not making enough in the business to manage their expenses. Okay, why? Is it the marketing? Is it, do you know what I mean? Your products? Is it, it could be a number of things.
It could be, absolutely. And you've touched on something very important there. It could also be the process.
Yes.
They're very good at this process. But the best example you give in a business is you go in, you look at their aged recoveries and they're, routinely everyone's 120 days plus, but we don't look at anything until it's 3 months. Why?
Yeah.
So the staff are brilliant at following up on debts that are 3 months or older, and they can recover that. But all of a sudden, you've just taught your clients that they can be 3 months late.
And that's what's interesting, because you have to be open to acknowledge that you don't know everything as a director. I don't know everything. I don't profess to know everything. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer in Australia. I just didn't convert, to be honest, Brendon.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole different ballgame. But what I will say is that I'm very good operationally, and I'm very good at getting to the key issues, whether it's a business or a consumer, everyday person. And I have experts that surround my business. So be it legal assistants, be it financial planners, be it reputable accountants, there's nothing that cannot be solved. But you have to also be open to change and acknowledging that you can't fix this issue because you're in this issue because something was missed.
Correct. And the day you know everything, you should retire, because you're no good to anyone. You are actually no good. If you think you know everything, just leave.
There's that phrase, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Everyone's heard that phrase, I'm sure, but yet people still do it. And especially I see a lot of businesses doing it, and hopefully, if there's even one business owner watching this saying, you know what, that I can relate to this scenario, reach out, guys. Happy to help, completely free, no obligation. I can point you in the right direction. More than happy. I'm sure Brendon and his team would be more than happy to have a look at how they can actually assist you from a legal standpoint.
Absolutely.
But it's the conversation that needs to be had. Don't ignore those letters. Reach out to our companies and we can help you move forward.
Oh, absolutely. Ignoring things does not mean someone like me chasing you will stop. Oh, they've ignored it, we won't do anything.
Ignorance is not bliss.
It's quite the opposite. Ignorance means we're just going to keep pressing on. So if you're in that position, make sure do something, and communication is important. And that's both communication, whoever sent you, and communication within your own team. So get your advisors lined up. If you need a financial advisor, get in contact. If you need someone you trust, in your corner, and I'm not talking, oh, well, my wife does that, and I'm not, or, oh, she's done it for 40 years. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe we need to move away
Be
from...
Be open to acknowledge the problem as well. Yeah.
Correct. And there's always a solution.
Always.
So one of the mottos we have is solutions, not lengthy litigation. Nobody's interested in lengthy litigation. Is there a solution? Yes. Let's get to it as quick as we can and move on.
Perfect, because I'd like to now move that part of what you just said into the fact that I know for a fact that your team have been so open in communication, and especially when it comes to, because I normally end up having to advocate for the client that's received a letter from Celtic. And the minute I put forward exactly what the scenario is, exactly what the game plan is, the fact that the broker that we're dealing with, the accountant that we're dealing with is helping them restructure the business or their finances to pay out a debt, Celtic are more than happy to work with all parties
Yep.
to ensure that there is a resolution. You know, it's great to see, because a lot of legal firms, you send email, you're waiting for a response. You leave a voicemail, you're waiting. You know, it's this battle of, can somebody call me back?
Yeah.
I must commend your team. I've never had that issue.
Well, thank you for that.
And it's really nice to see. So
Well, it's important because our client we're the face for our client.
Yeah.
Our client has come to us to solve a problem of some sort, and it doesn't benefit them if we sit in our hands and don't reply and do nothing. We want them happy. We want them the file finished as quickly as possible, so they're
Absolutely.
happy. So communication, we've touched on it a few times, so important.
yeah, it's so important. And you know, the fact that you walk them through to the end, you know, and you don't want it to be a situation where, you know, a half-assed job is done, to be
Yep.
frank,
Yep.
and then your client ends up back in your desk because it's a quick win and you know that you can charge them again. You're
Yep.
very far from doing that as a company. You'll want to help your client and then also re-educate them as to what they can be potentially doing better, so they don't get to the point where, you know, it's sort of dragged out and then their debt's sort of like 12 months old, and, you know, like...
Every time a client talks to us, it costs them money in two ways at least.
Yeah.
One is our time that they're paying for, and two, they could be doing something far better with their time. They set aside half an hour for a conference with me. Well, imagine if that half an hour was spent chasing a new client and signing up a new client in whatever it is. So it's important. We try and make sure our clients don't need us or don't need to talk to us as much. Some of it is education, analysis of their business. Do they know their business? And even things like, oh, we're flat out, we're so busy. You might be, but you know, if you were at 80% capacity collecting 100% of that money, then you'd be probably in a better situation. You're chasing work
100%.
you can't do. Never be a busy fool.
Yeah.
You know, just working for revenue. You want to work to make money.
I'm going to borrow that. Never be a busy fool. I love it.
Love it. Good West of Ireland phrase.
So, look, thank you. But before I let you go on your merry way and get on that plane back to Queensland, 5 key points for everyday people that receive demand notices. What should they do?
Read it and understand what's in it. Make sure, second thing, look at when is the due date to reply by. So there'll be a date it's sent and there'll be a date you must reply within 7 days, 14 days. What is it? Diarise it. Very important. 3, reach out to somebody that's in the field of whatever it is that you have received it about, whether it's, okay, it could be from the ATO. All right, well, I need to get my tax up to date. That's going to be a financial side of things, an accountant. It's a default notice from the bank. Okay, well, I'm behind. Maybe I need to get some finance. It's a legal matter. All right, well, I need a lawyer. So make sure that you know what's in it. 4, follow up. Don't let it, I've reached out to someone, they'll come back to me. All is well.
100%.
Don't worry about it. They'll come back to me. So you're relying on someone else to follow you up on your problem. No, take the front foot. And 5, don't let it linger.